Hi, this is Mary Boston. This is for course Earl 126, and this is the fall 2020 semester. This is for lab number 4. The title of my activity is reading a book about movement using the crowd technique. The curriculum goal area that this focuses on is the children's ability to inquire and solve problems with the language of movement when they use parts of their bodies and follow movement directions. The language of learning that this focuses on is the language of learning or the language of movement from the AWL framework. The standards that are evident in this activity and the ones that I want to focus on are standard 1.1, 1.2, and 10.4. 1.1 is the demonstration of spoken words, understanding syllables and phonemes and everything like that. 1.2 is their ability to answer questions based on things they've read and the text that they've seen. And 10.4 is their ability to coordinate their body movements. This could be fine or gross motor skills. To incorporate UDL into the lesson, you want to make sure that everybody is able to complete and carry out the activity that you plan. So for this one, if somebody has difficulties paying attention and following when reading activity takes place, you can include things that would make it more engaging for them, like asking more questions, including more props for them to look at, for maybe they can hold something while they read and stuff like that. And for the parachute activity that is happening after the reading, you want to make sure that everybody is able to use those movements, those arm movements and their limbs and stuff like that, because if not, it would have to be adjusted in a way that they could be included in the activity. So to start, the first thing that you will need is the book Up, Up, Down by Robert Munsch. This is the book that will be the focus of the lesson for today. And basically, there's sticky notes and tabs for guided questions that you can ask during the book, during the reading. And then the only other material that you will need is a parachute, one of those big rainbow ones that they use in like gym class and stuff. Unless there are students who need more engagement, and in that case we can include other materials. So for this activity, the teaching skills and strategies that I would like to focus on are stretching and directing. Stretching, that will come from the prompts, the using the crowd technique with the different questions, and just keeping them engaged and having them think about what they're seeing or what they've done, how they can connect to it and stuff like that. Directing, basically just by going through the activity step by step, making sure that they know what's expected of them and what they can do, how they can make connections. And then even more importantly, when they move to that second location to do the parachute activity, you want to make sure that everybody is in line, paying attention, behaving, and that they know what to do when they get to the parachute activity, which will be covered later. So when you have all of those things, you can begin the lesson. So the first thing that can be done is introducing the overall theme of the lesson, which is based on the book Up, Up, Down, which is works with movement. So one of the things that we can start with is by having the class point in different directions. So if I ask them to point up, they would point up, and if I asked them to point down, they would point down. And you could continue in different directions, even though this one focuses on the up and down. Once you begin reading the book, you can just go through and make sure that you are emphasizing different things, pointing out the illustrations, because these illustrations are very detailed and very fun. And then, of course, there will always be other questions you can ask, but on the sticky notes there are just examples of questions. Like for this one, there's the big tree, and it's a very, very nice illustration. And the question here is, can you think of a time when you saw a big tree? Did you climb the tree? And what kinds of things do you climb on? Because this book is all about how she the main character likes to climb things. Some of the things are inappropriate to climb. So having them think about what kind of things can they climb on, what do they climb on, that can sort of allow them to connect to the book better. And then just going through that and asking different questions throughout the book. And then when the book is done, when you're done reading the book, you can continue on to the next activity, which is having a small discussion about the book, which is always great. And you can have a smaller one here or have a larger one at the end when you're done with both activities. So either or, as long as they're able to discuss their feelings about the book, what they liked, what they didn't like, some things they found funny, what pictures they liked, what they saw in the pictures, like if they saw a bird or the bees up by the tree, and just stuff like that. And then you can move on to the next activity, which is the parachute activity. And for this, they can move outside of the playground to the gym, wherever there's an open space, enough room for nobody to get hurt, and have enough room for the parachute. When you put the parachute on the ground, you want to make sure that the children are spaced out evenly. Normally there's handles on the parachute, so you could place, like, have one student sit at, like, every other handle, however many students there are. And then you're basically just going to walk through different motions with the parachute. So they can go up a little bit or up all the way and then down halfway and then down. You can go up, 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 and then all the way down, or up and then down, down, down. Just different movements that teach them those directions and stuff like that. And then when that's done and you feel like you've gotten enough out of it for them, we can set the parachute down, and where the handle that they had was, they can sit on top of the parachute next to the handle. Like, sort of like if the handle were here, they could sit on the parachute here. And then you can have either your second discussion or your big discussion about what they saw in the book, how they felt, what they liked, what they didn't like, what they learned possibly from either the book or the parachute activity or both. And then you can ask more open-ended questions about the book, maybe some things that you didn't get to cover when you read it, or some questions that you may have about the parachute, like what movements did they use, how many times did they go up, how many times did they go down, what limbs. You can ask them what part of their body they were using, and they can point and explain that they used their arms for that gross motor movement. And then when either the discussion, it begins like fizzing out, or we run out of time, we can clean up the parachute and head back to the classroom. And then to close out the lesson, the children can just sort of talk among themselves about the book. And I mean, you can flip back through the illustrations to sort of show them, the different things that were there in the book, because there are a lot of great there's a lot of color, there's a lot of detail and stuff like that. Like, even from this picture, it's just them in a tree, but there's still all this extra stuff in the picture. And then when everything's cleaned up and the discussions are done, then they can sort of move on to whatever's next.